the greater degree to which he's involved in this, and some of the original folks that kind of got their start with Buffy, like Marty Noxon and.
According to an article I've got in front of me here, it says that he will be the executive producer,
right,
alongside several other executive producers from the original series. I'm not as much of a fan as the original series, so none of these names mean anything to me. But there's another person, Monica Owusu-Breen, is going to be the writer, executive producer, and showrunner.
Right, and I think she's worked on S.H.I.E.L.D. some over the years. Yep. So like that's definitely a positive thing. Like I said, for me, when it happens, I will watch it and I will give it a degree of deference. But I don't think it's going to be possible for me to love it as much as I loved the original.
Yeah. Well, actually, so something I'm seeing here that makes me sort of more interested in this lady is that she also worked on Alias, Lost, and Fringe.
Right. All good shows.
Good shows. All good shows. I wasn't really into Lost. I was watching it for a while, and as soon as they started to do the flash forwards, I was just done with it.
Okay.
Because there were so many dangling plot threads that I was really interested in.
Right.
And instead of like answering any of those, they're like, "Oh, hey, I know, let's throw this new thing in there." And I'm like, "Nah, you lost me, guys. I'm sorry." But I love Fringe. Fringe was a fantastic show.
Fringe was really, really cool. Especially how in the later seasons they were able to kind of reinvent the show and still make it work.
Yeah. They basically rebooted the entire show at the end of, what was it, like the third or fourth season or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bizarre, but it worked.
Right. To where, like, I think the final season, I think the fifth season, ended up being a season-long TV experiment, version of essentially the Adjustment Bureau, the film, but it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
so sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so yay, we're getting some new Buffy. We'll see how it goes, and on we go.
So apparently there are 2 different Joker movies in production right now.
I had heard that.
And one of them is going to be with the Florida Gigolo Joker from Suicide Squad.
Right, they're gonna have Jared Leto come back.
And the other one is going to be an actually interesting Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
So I'm definitely more interested in that one. Anything at this point, I'm pretty much done with the DCEU. One of our listeners actually has been messaging me and saying that he wants to come on the show and talk and be like an apologist for the DCEU. So I'm considering that. I'm not 100% sold on that yet because I just can't even with the DCEU right now.
So does that mean that when Aquaman comes out in December, you're not going to bother?
I certainly will not go to see it at a movie theater.
Okay.
I might pay $1.50 to get it from Redbox, but that's not even a given. Okay. I didn't watch. I watched Justice League on an airplane.
Okay.
Justice League became an option for me when I was stuck in a flying tin can with nothing else to do.
Well then, I guess that's a ringing non-endorsement if there ever was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would be interested in hearing that perspective because I enjoy them, but I'm not necessarily an outright apologist for them either. I realize that they have, their issues, they have their warts, but I'm still gonna go see it because we live in a time and an age and a place where we're getting that stuff to a degree that we certainly didn't get it as when we were younger, even though a lot of the stuff that we got when we were younger, like the animated, Batman and Superman animated series and Justice League and all that kind of stuff, all of that we can kind of unequivocally look at and be like, oh, but this was actually good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have a hard time. It's the DCEU has a lot of work to do if it's gonna pull that just like noxious tire fire out of the nonsense that it's mired in right now and retroactively make it be anything approaching good.
Yeah. So no Aquaman for John, probably no Shazam for John.
So I haven't actually seen that Shazam trailer yet. I like Zachary Levi.
I do too.
And so if that seems because okay, so here's and this is the same. The DCEU is suffering from the same problem that we talked about before. It's like, yeah, dark and gritty.
Yep.
Like, and if anything should be like, if Superman can't be a big fun ray of hope,
yes,
then definitely Shazam should be. And if they can't understand that this needs to be a fun character,
yep,
with like lots and lots of optimism and hope, then it's over before it begins.
That's fair. I mean, and I've watched a lot of Zach Levi's stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of Chuck. Granted, his character arc in that Heroes reboot from a couple years ago was a little darker than I was expecting, but most of what I know of him, both professionally in his work and personally, is that he's a pretty, upstanding, pretty bright, light, hopeful guy, and so I'm hoping that comes through, and there's a certain degree of kind of lighthearted, what I guess I would say is kind of Chuckness from his work on that show, kind of comes through with his portrayal of Shazam, and if that comes through, then I'm just fine. It's like, oh, okay, great. We've got an instance where the character plays out more like they should, and maybe they'll kind of learn and turn things around. It's really, we mentioned it earlier. It's really a question of money. And I hate that that's the case. But even when stuff that's not that great makes, big, huge, flaming piles of money, they think, oh, this is what success means, therefore we're going to double down on what we think success means.
Yeah. So here's something that's a little bit niche that I'd like to, that sort of is interesting to me.
Okay.
The Eisner Awards have come out at Comic-Con.
Okay.
And as I'm scrolling through the nominees and the winners, it's interesting to me that it's interesting to me how little Marvel and DC are represented.
Maybe that's a good thing.
And as I look at it, that's sort of my initial thought as well, that like they're doing, and it's kind of like, it's a little bit like the Oscars, right? Like the big flashy like stuff with wide appeal isn't what normally gets nominated or gets awarded in the Oscars. I mean, until you start looking at things like, the technical things like sound design and visual effects and
right.
and editing and stuff like that. But the big, sort of the big five of best director, best picture, best actor, best actress, best screenplay. The big movies don't get nominated or awarded for those ones usually, and I feel like it's sort of reflected in sort of the comic book world here in the Eisner Awards, that I see a lot of stuff by, some comic book studios or publishers that I don't even know about, like Shortbox or Ad House Books.
Nope.
Bedside Press.
Also no.
Yeah, like I know, Comic Mix. I don't know any of these things. Yeah, so I see a good bit of Image. I see a good bit of Dark Horse.
Okay.
I see Boom Studios. And there's some Marvel. There's almost no DC.
Is the Marvel
There's a couple
stuff...
nominations here in the Best Humor publication from DC in Batman and Elmer Fudd special.
Wow. I mean, both of those properties are owned by Warner Brothers, so in a way it makes sense. But wow.
Yeah, that's sort of strange. I guess it looks like they screened that new DC animated movie of the death of Superman, and that was not really well received.
Oh,
there's sort of nothing new there. Nothing that would make it worthwhile. Because this is the third time we've killed Superman in like 5 years, I guess Superman Doomsday came out a while ago.
Yeah, 10 or 11 years ago, I think.
Yeah. So, but the third time we killed Superman in 10 years, and it's just the same. It's more of the same, and it's nothing special.
Yeah, you could probably say it's a little bit of overkill.
Ha, ha, ha.
Sometimes I can't help myself, John. That's a little bit that's a little bit disappointing to hear about the death of Superman, because I was looking forward to that, because I had it kind of in my mind that it was going to be treated kind of like the two-part The Dark Knight Returns animated film had been done. Like, I knew they were going to set it in kind of the New 52 DC Animated Universe continuity, but if it's not even well received in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, then that does not bode well, and maybe I'll just stick with, rewatching the animated Gotham by Gaslight instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of that DC animated stuff has been good.
It has.
Even more recently, I feel like there's been they've had some notable misses. I heard that The Killing Joke didn't go as well. They added some kind of icky stuff into there that wasn't necessary. The Batman and Harley Quinn feature is also kind of hashtag problematic.
Right.
And yeah,
because
I don't know how many more times we can possibly say this, but Marvel knows that comic books and superheroes are fun, and DC apparently does not know this.
Well, so both of those instances, I've seen them. I actually saw Killing Joke when they did when they released it to theaters for like a 2-night special event, and the things that they did in order to kind of flesh out Barbara's story. I mean, part of it honestly was a runtime issue. That the Killing Joke story in and of itself isn't long enough of a story to turn it into an animated feature like they did, so they knew they needed to do something, and what they did to kind of pad out the story and add to Barbara to attempt to give her some agency and some depth of character really didn't work out all that well, to the point